CGB, we've been doing Hearthstone rating videos for a very long time. In fact, we've done so many, I've basically shown you every single card in Hearthstone. One thing I've never done though, is have you rate every single keyword and decide which one you think is the best keyword in Hearthstone. The way we're gonna do this is called a King of the Hill format. Do you know what that is?
To enter one, leave, repeat until only one.
Yeah.
Is that about it?
Well done.
Okay, thank you.
Shima didn't know what that was, so I wanted to explain just in case. So I'm going to show you two keywords just so everyone understands. I'm going to show you two keywords. You're going to pick one that you think is better. That one's going to stay. Another one's going to enter, and you're going to keep going until we go through every single keyword. Couple rules here. I'm not showing you every keyword because some of them are just way too overloaded and require a bunch of other cards, such as Imbue or Dark Gifts. They're just too much. So rather than, I'm only showing you the ones that are just pretty easy to understand, that have been from an expansion or from the base game, that you could evaluate in a vacuum, rather than looking at this entire package. And we're going to see if you actually pick the exact same keyword as Simo. And there's a good chance you will, but we'll see.
Ooh,
okay.
And
I will remind you every single time we do what a keyword is. Before we continue with this video, let me show you something really cool. Wait, you guys see that? What is that? There's no way they added them. The Sylvan Watchers are now in Raid Shadow Legends. Let me give you some quick lore here. Rather than building a sprawling city on the ground or in a cave, the Sylvan Watchers made their home in the Mistwoods. It's a huge jungle, so you could probably guess that these guys know what they're doing. Imagine living in a jungle. I barely leave my house, and there is no better time to get into Raid Shadow Legends because of what you just saw, their brand new faction, the Sylvan Watchers. Unlike your typical warrior that you've probably seen before, the Sylvan Watchers are incredibly unique, as you could probably tell, and most importantly, they have an incredible design. Imagine the enemy party going against Alva Autumnborn. Brother, look at this thing. What? Or even scarier, and I'm gonna pronounce this wrong because it's who I am, but Ilil? I don't know what this thing is, but please get it away from me. Or my personal favorite, Dudan the Runic. If I have to pick one champion to be on my party, it's this thing. And if you download Raid Shadow Legends right now, not only will you get Kellan the Shrike for free with all these extra rewards, you'll get another pack at level 15, which includes Grizzled Jarl, which is one of the strongest legends in the entire game. And if you're a brand new player, you can pick from one of these new promo codes, which allows you to get a free legendary of your choice. Plus, all players can get a second legendary in the game right now, Leminisi the Gold-wing. She can be obtained for logging in for 7 days between July 3rd and August 20th. So if you want to join Raid and get a ton of free stuff, make sure you click the link in the description down below or scan the QR code that's been on screen the entire time. Thank you so much for Raid for sponsoring this video. Now, back to me suffering. Before you even go to rating it, this is going to be really interesting to see comparison here because unlike Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic has keywords. It'll be interesting to see what you end up picking. Also, I guess the translation between Magic and Hearthstone is much easier than to Yu-Gi-Oh, so.
So if Arcane Bolt is a good example of a Mana Thirst card, and if Ziliax is a good example of a Magnetic card, I think Magnetic is much better. Obviously, it's nice to have a card that scales up into the late game, but you're looking for a much bigger effect in the late game, and you probably don't even want, what is 1 mana dealing 3 damage even going to pick off and do what you need to do.
I wouldn't evaluate Mana Thirst based on the card I'm showing you.
Yeah.
I think because again, you're entirely right. Arcane Bolt is probably not one-to-one better than Ziliax with Mana Thirst, but it's more like the keyword itself, its potential, and I'm showing you a good card for each keyword because Arcane Bolt was a very playable card with Mana Thirst.
Sure. And
continue, sorry.
Yeah, I think I understand, and it's Mana Thirst is a flexible ability because it makes something that you can play early, but then it scales into late game, so it's not just complete trash when you top deck it later. And that's nice, you would want that in some of your removal spells and things of that nature. The Magnetic ability, just looking at the number of stats you're giving something is kind of crazy. It is in and of itself a risky proposition to give all this to one minion and have something go wrong with that minion. So there is that issue. It's putting eggs into a basket. I mean, it's difficult, right? Because you picture like the potential Mana Thirst. I would love a 1-mana card that does a small amount of damage to an early minion, but when I happen to have 8 mana for a Mana Thirst, blows up the whole board. But that is probably too good. Like, that's probably not what this ability is doing. So like my expectations also have to be reasonable, because if I go in with unrealistic expectations, I think Mana Thirst has a much higher ceiling, because you could have a 1-mana card that you could play on turn 1 when it's good, and then if you have Mana Thirst 10, be a game-ending monster, and you have both in the same card, meaning that your 10-mana card doesn't have that cost requirement of sitting in your hand and doing nothing for most of the game, which is a very serious downside. So Mana Thirst has the much higher ceiling. I almost feel, and the magnetic ability, from what I can tell, is bound specifically to one type, mechs, and does in its nature put your eggs in one basket. I think in card design, people can do more with it because it is a riskier mechanic, because it has those built-in drawbacks. So I think that you generally could make better, like as a card designer, I think you could make better magnetic cards in a vacuum than Mana Thirst cards. Because the second you make busted Mana Thirst cards, there's no downside to them and everybody plays them all the time. But I think that makes Mana Thirst the better keyword, even though it's not even useful until you're late in the game. I still think, like, I think of in Magic, we have Kicker. Kicker's been done 100 different times. There are a million different versions of Kicker. Almost, it feels like every set has a version of Kicker with different text that does the same thing a different way. Kicker is, the spell does this much if you cast it for this cost, like 2, the low cost. But if you kick it and pay an additional 6 or whatever amount, it does so much more. And it's such a more explosive card in the late game. Every set loves this. And the design space is wide open. You can do it in 100 different ways. Kicker can be to discard a card or sacrifice a creature. Kicker can be to pay this cost on the low end but get this effect, and then pay this cost in the high end to get this much bigger effect. It's so open. So like right away, I don't like the downsides, but I'm sure there are better cards for magnetic. But I think that is actually an endorsement of Mana Thirst, because I think it has the higher ceiling as a mechanic. And if these two entered the arena and I could only pick one to play in the future, I guess I'd take Mana Thirst, because it's more versatile.
Wow. Okay, so that is first and foremost, I liked hearing your thought process behind that. I'm going to try to be the more objective take from all the years of Hearthstone I have. Mana Thirst was a good keyword, and I think you're right. I think it is kind of, it seems weaker than it could be, because it's on specific cards. They obviously thought about that quite a bit. There's one card I'm not showing you, which I'm sure a lot of people might want to see, is Aslar, which was like arguably the best card, but just for time's sake and going through all the effort, I'm not going to show you all 3 of them. I have shown you Aslar before if you remember him, but it's fine if you don't. Magnetic, maybe something you're not considering. And it's funny because you picked the same thing as Simo. You picked Mana Thirst. Magnetic can almost be looked at as charge, where it's like, if I have a mech on board that can attack, anything that has magnetic is immediate stats to deal damage. So because of that reason, and you get the keywords on top of it, magnetic is a very snowbally mechanic that could just end the game out of nowhere. So they actually print magnetic pretty sparingly. They've done it a little bit more recently because they brought it back for Titans, but magnetic was a very powerful keyword, and it also works with any buff you give the mech before it's attached onto something. I personally think magnetic is the better keyword, but this is your list, so Mana Thirst is going forward.
Yeah, I think maybe we just need a quick general, like, are we trying to go for, like, if we pick this list and picked from existing Hearthstone cards, would we have the best deck we could make with this keyword, or are we going from like in design potential? Because like I got sidetracked into what's the ceiling for Mana Thirst. The ceiling is this card gets played in everything all the time with no downside, but I don't know that card exists. So
I will say this, it's tough to go for the latter there, because theoretically you could design any card that makes Mana Thirst or magnetic broken, right? Like if I said to you, like, there's a 3-minute 10 can make 3-minute 10/10 magnetic, you'd be like, okay, magnetic's broken. Like, what the hell? It would be about how you feel about the keyword from someone who doesn't play Hearthstone on a regular basis, right? You understand the game, you can understand the power level of it, but it's interesting to hear your like thought process going into which one you think has the highest potential without knowing the cards. So you know what Mana Thirst is. Twin Spell's the next mechanic here. Do you know what Twin Spell is?
No.
Twin Spell is when I play the first copy of Ray of Frost, I get a second copy of Ray of Frost in my hand.
Okay, it goes to the hand.
Stays in hand. It doesn't add a new card. Like, it just stays in the hand. I guess I can clarify that.
You cast the card with Twin Spell, and then it has its effect, but then kind of comes back to the hand?
So it does. You cast Ray of Frost on a minion. You get another Ray of Frost in hand in the exact same card position, because in Hearthstone you can't manipulate where cards are in your hand. But now it doesn't have Twin Spell anymore. So you just get 2 copies of the same spell for 1 card. Is the way I would describe it.
They tried that in Alchemy Magic with a keyword called Double Team, where the first time you attack with a creature with Double Team, you get a second copy of it that does not have Double Team into your hand.
Well, there you go. Same mechanic virtually.
Not really, because you had to attack with it, which made it a lot worse, you had to wait till the next turn to get one. It still wasn't bad. I mean, it is 2 cards in 1. So Ray of Frost says freeze a minion. If it's already frozen, deal 2 damage to it. So, I mean, this is 1 mana, freeze something, draw a card that's another freeze something. You can lock down a minion for 2 turns. Or you could spend 2 and deal 2 damage to it on the spot, which might kill it. All right, 2 cards in 1. It's the same card twice. If you added it to your deck, a card that just draws another copy of itself. If you added it to your deck, you've probably found some kind of synergy to it. And it also has the ability to continue to proc like things that say cast 2 spells in a turn. So I'm sure Rogue loves this shit. This looks like it's in Mage. My bias is kicking in hard. I would much rather have 2 cards, a card that draws another copy of itself early in a game, than wait and potentially play something when I have 8 mana crystals available to get a better effect. I feel like there's more potential in so many ways. I mean, in general, I think of many things in Magic. I mentioned Double Team, but I'm really thinking of Adventure. You are familiar with Adventure cards now.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it's just 2 cards in 1. It's just 2 cards in 1. That's insane.
Sure.
That's crazy.
Sure.
Now, in this case, it's only the same card, and I imagine they were very careful about what they put Twin Spell on, but it only takes one that's like good or has a really good synergy with your deck, that getting it over and over. It's also potentially dangerous because it can make every game feel the same, because you're casting the same card over and over and over and over and over and over, and people probably don't like that very much. But like Ray of Frost seems like a good implementation. I have trouble turning down just raw card economy. Just rectangle theory is what they call it in Magic. A card that creates more cards. Like, if you do that more than the opponent, you are very likely to win. The person with the most rectangles tends to win. I have to go with, I gotta go with Twin Spell. I have to. I'm like in love. Yes, give me more attached to it is very nice. From
the Hearthstone perspective, again, this is just my subjective take here, but I actually agree with you. I think Twin Spell, I said it to Simo as well, because he picked Twin Spell, which is very funny here. I thought Twin Spell was one of the best mechanics they've ever done in the game. I loved it. I thought it was so smartly designed. Now, obviously, like you said, they have to be very careful of how they make these cards. The one I did not show you was Conjurer's Calling, which is 3 mana to destroy a minion. You summon 2 minions of the same cost to replace it. That card in Hearthstone was insane, that they had to nerf it. Very good card for Mage. But I showed you this one because this one was also very playable. Very good card. Very versatile card as well. Yeah, it's funny you picked the exact same thing as Simo again, but I mean, here we are.
So far, so good. Still same person.
Next on the list. Now that you know what Twin Spell is, you're looking at Windfury.
Oh God. Windfury is a combat ability. I know what Windfury does. It can attack twice. And we're looking at Inara Stormcrash, 5 for a 4/5. On your turn, your hero has +2 attack in Windfury. So your hero gets a little buff and can go bam, rise up out of its little home in the middle and go punch something and then do it again. I mean, God. I know Windfury is a good mechanic. People have Windfuried me to death. I understand. In my limited time in Hearthstone, I've been kicked with a Windfury.
Just like Twin Spell, it's a mechanic they have to print very sparingly. They have to understand it can be very, very dangerous to have a card with Windfury on it.
So this is really frustrating, this pairing. Particularly is infuriating, because you have something that is a value spell mechanic versus something that is definitely a combat minion mechanic.
Yeah.
And I have a strong bias away from the combat minions towards the spells.
That is fair. If you, again, this is your list. This is your list. Whatever you think is correct.
Again, I need to picture like a goal. Is this goal like I can play a deck and it can only have cards from this keyword against other decks with the same restriction, and that's what I'm picking? Probably I'm going to use something like that as my North Star, if that sounds appropriate.
That's whatever you want to do. That's fine.
Yeah, I think I have to do that. Because if I don't, there's no guiding light. It's just, well, I like drawing cards, so I pick the draw card. Duh.
Fair enough.
All right. So I'm playing to win. My reputation is on the line. I'll have to change my name from the one in best of one to just some guy on the internet. And, and I'm trying to build a deck in Hearthstone, and I can only use cards with this keyword.
An interesting way of doing it.
It is.
I like it.
It puts stakes on it, so I actually care about the result as opposed to my bias for what to play. I think a big differentiator for me is the fact that Hearthstone doesn't have ways to interact on the opponent's turn. Like yes. that is why doing combos with big damage is so much more powerful in Hearthstone, because in Magic you can come up with Double Strike, for example, as something like Windfury, and you can say, would you rather draw an extra card or have a creature with Double Strike? The answer would almost always be draw an extra card, because all it takes is a removal spell at the right time and the Double Strike creature does nothing. But when you play Inara Stormcrash, the opponent doesn't get to do anything right now. The hero just goes bam, bam, and they deal with the consequences. Like, I feel like Windfury ends games. I feel like Twin Spell prolongs games. And if Twin Spell can't keep you alive when the opponent is ending the game because there's no interaction, I have to say, in the deathmatch, in the King of the Hill format, I've got to take Windfury. I have to. It's a different game from Magic, so I'm going to do that.
Oh, wow, I would have thought you would have picked Twin Spell. See, Windfury is really interesting.
I want to.
Windfury, I mean, listen, it's your list. If you think Twin Spell is the better mechanic, I'm not going to fault you for that. Windfury is a very scary keyword. Twin Spell can be very scary, but there have been moments with Windfury that the game has been decided on that. And one of the best examples of this was a card called Vicious Fledgling from Ungoro, not the one you played, the old one. And that card said 3 mana. When this attacks a hero, adapt. We'll get to adapt. Well, I'm not going to show you adapt. One of the adapts was you can get Windfury on it. If you got Windfury on that, you get to adapt again in the same turn, and that's snowballed out of control. If did not hit the Windfury, the card was infinitely worse. It all came down to, do you high roll that Windfury to decide the game right there? And that was showing me how potentially strong Windfury is. I'm also going to show you this card, because I didn't want to show you this because I think it's going to skew you in too much, but this card's very good.
Adjacent minion.
So they printed that in Stormwind as a neutral, and all of a sudden the game came down to, if you could not remove a minion that had decent attack, the game was probably over. It's too much damage. So that card I think was 5 mana when it came out as well. I don't remember. It was disgusting, and that really, again, cemented the fact that Windfury is a really good mechanic. And by the way, Seema picked Twin Spell over it. So
it's over.
You guys are now on a different path.
The romance has ended.
That was cool analysis, though. Tradeable is the one we're looking at here. Do you remember what Tradeable is?
Cycling in Magic. You may pay 1 to put this back in your deck and draw a different card.
Nice. Okay. Which one do you think is better?
So I'm looking at Drakefire Amulet, Tradeable, discover 2 dragons and summon them for 10. Yeah, I mean, this is a great example of the mechanic, because it's just stuck in your hand if it didn't have Tradeable, doing nothing and making you sad. And if it was in your mulligan, you're just basically down a card all the way up until turn 10. If you get there, where hopefully you're winning the game with the powerful spell that was worth including. But with Tradeable, you just go down a little bit of tempo and replace it with a different card. Cycling has been done 100 ways in Magic, which is basically Tradeable. Again, they've experimented with different costs to give things cycling. There have been a few times where a cycling deck was playable, but it was rarely the top deck in the format, and always like a side quest you could be doing. And cycling cards are beloved in limited formats, but in modern times, they don't make the cut to constructed, even when they're borderline good, because the cost of having the card in your hand and having to pay mana to move it was too high, as opposed to just having a card in your hand that is likely to be relevant in the meta and style that you are playing. Okay. So that has really reduced the popularity of cycling in recent years outside of limited formats. And in super competitive high stakes Magic, cycling a card is not a common play. So that is coloring my approach to this. Now, similar to an already fallen keyword in Mana Thirst, Tradeable has the higher potential ceiling. The design ceiling on this can be, okay, this card is busted and you would want to play it for 7 every time because it would win the game. And the only downside is that it's stuck in your hand, but now it's tradable. And if they make tradable for just 1, it's like, well, of course, everybody's going to run it because if you get to 7 mana and cast it, you win. But the difference with tradable is you're just drawing an extra card. And when I say that, I hate saying that because I love drawing extra cards. But with but at least Arcane Bolt did something to the board when you spent your 1 mana. This does nothing to the board. It is a negative tempo. And if I had to choose whether or not to take a deck full of tradable cards into combat or a deck that can Windfury, this one isn't close for me, and I'm going with Windfury. I'm keeping Inara as my champion.
Okay, here's your sorry, from the subjective standpoint of a Hearthstone player, tradable as a mechanic has probably become one of my favorites. I do think the fact that like I could shuffle in a Dragonfire Amulet that's doing nothing into my deck and get another card for 1 mana is very nice, knowing that's still there. But does it win more games than Windfury? That is very contingent on what the tradable card is. Most of them are pretty, like, they're tech cards, right? I showed you Dragonfire Amulet because one of the best examples of it is like you're playing Big Mage, you want to cheat out the spells, and then it's in your hand and you can't because it's on your, like, you need it in your deck, now it's in your hand, but now you can shuffle it back in your deck. That's really awesome. But most of them are tech cards. And if that tech card is not applicable, most of the time it's just going to be 1 mana to draw a card. So I don't know if it's better than Windfury. It probably doesn't win as many games. Do you remember what Frenzy is?
Nope. Is it if it's been damaged this turn?
Frenzy, yeah, close. Frenzy is if this gets dealt damage but lives, it procs the Frenzy. Anytime
it's dealt damage and lives.
But it only procs once. It only procs once.
Okay, so we have Blade Master Samuro, which is 4 for a 1/6 with Rush, and Frenzy is deal damage equal to this minion's attack to all enemy minions. Okay, so the fun gist with this is you put this down, you attack into their thing that has less than 5 power, it deals 1 to it, this takes damage, then it does 1 damage to all enemy minions if this wasn't propped up in any way.
Yes.
Okay. Is that a typical, are all Frenzy abilities the same, or is this just one example of it?
That's a great question. I'm going to show you one more because I showed Simo this one as well because I feel like this is like a little different.
Frenzy, reduce the cost of cards in your hand by 1. Okay.
That card used to be 2 mana, by the way, for the record.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that card was good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I'm going to not talk about Octobot for a quick second. Let me just kind of talk about Samar for 1 second. One thing you may not notice or realize is that if it has lifesteal and you proc the Frenzy, it will deal damage, and because it has lifesteal, it will heal off of every damage it deals.
Yeah, that works similar in Magic too. If you can give like a lifelink creature an ability and then use an effect that makes it deal its damage to everything. That came up in a game I just played this week. That you can gain the person gained like almost 100 life that way. With Frenzy, I feel like this is true of all these keywords. It depends what it's printed on. That's true. I think with Frenzy, it really depends. Like, these are very different mechanics. Like, one is reducing cost, one is dealing damage. Like, that could be, like, there are knobs you can turn to make things busted. You told me this efficient Octobot costs 2 once. Jesus.
Yeah.
That's crazy, Rand.
I will also say, and you probably know this already, but I'll just say it for you as well. You could proc your own Frenzy, right? Like, it doesn't have to be your opponent procking it. There are cards that say like deal 1 damage to your minion.
Yeah, it is bordered, like, yeah, there's a lot of deck building specific. There's board specific with the Blade Master Samuro. It's Frenzy's weird, dude. This is a weird one. And obviously several different directions it can go. Fits into Warrior, right? Because that's a Warrior thing to do, to punch your own stuff. Seems like there's a decent amount of support for that. Like, these cards you showed me, I can see how those can be very good. Is it better than Windfury? I don't know, man. Double attacks versus something that attacks once and then gives you kind of a spell effect. Still has to get to do that attack. At least the Blade Master has Rush. Yeah, or you have to have a way to hit your own stuff for value, which, you know what? There's probably those things exist. Man, I don't know what to think of Frenzy. The fact that it only procs only once is it's a guardrail that was probably necessary.
Yeah, I guess if you gave Frenzy with infinite Frenzy procs to the Octobot, the game would be
stuff would be broken.
It'd be very bad. So
yeah. So it's built in though. It's built in that there is a limit to how good this can be. I'm torn on this one. This is the first I've seen Frenzy, and I can picture it working in one deck in a very specific way. And then I look at like Windfury and I'm like, every deck could use minions with Windfury. Like what deck wouldn't want a minion with Windfury if it also had good stats, right? Or some kind of an attacking like trigger that goes off. Any deck could use Windfury to great effect. I'm torn. I'm gonna stick with Windfury. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
That's fair. I think in terms of gameplay, Octobot and Samara were like the two best examples of Frenzy, and it's not even close. Frenzy was often used in Priest to just basically full heal off your opponent's board. It was actually horrible to play against when they did it to you. Like, it was probably just game. Octobot was a card, especially at 2 mana, that if you didn't have a way to kill it and they procced it, like, you were in such a bad position. But these are the two best cards of the keyword. And as much as I want to say Frenzy was like a really good keyword, on average, it sucked. Like, it was just not great. All right. Cool. You are aware of this keyword because we played with it a ton.
Temporary. I actually am. You're right. I don't know if they'll have seen any of that by the time this comes out, but who knows? Evocation is 1 mana to fill your hand with random mage spells that are temporary. Oh, I love this card. So stupid. It is.
Hey, it's a good card. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, it's only till end of it's only till end of turn. It's only till end of turn. So this is like you play it and you hope to high roll the thing that you need.
Exactly.
And if you're certain opponents of ours, you definitely will. In Magic, they've really leaned into the color red, having this thing called Impulsive Draw, which is you exile your top card and you can play it this turn, but if you don't play it, it just stays in exile. Basically temporary. And that is really good in aggressive strategies. Like, really good, because most of them have low curves and cards that are universally either threats or things that can go face or target the board. So they're usually cheap and they never lack targets. So almost anything you can get as a temporary card from a red deck that is aggressive can always be cast, and then you're just up cards. It is a good mechanic. Is it better than Windfury? It's like drawing cards, but with uncertainty. And in this case, temporary, filling your hand with random mage spells does come with that uncertainty. I don't think it's spoiler to say that sometimes you don't get cards you can play, and sometimes you do. Sometimes you get cards that aren't relevant, sometimes you do. It's that RNG, right? And it feels very rewarding to people who love that. And if I am playing a game for all of the marbles, I'm not building it around temporary cards, as much fun as that is. Like, I think it's a very fun mechanic, but I'm not like signing up to be a random temporary card competitive gamer. I'm gonna stick with the straight up attack you twice. I'm sticking with Windfury still.
Yeah, I am going to agree with you on this case. The fact is that it's not a consistent thing for a lot of the cards, and it's kind of just there as like a balancing act, so you don't just fill your hand up for 1 mana. Evocation is probably like the best example of what temporary can be, and it's the highest ceiling it probably goes without it being just egregious. But oftentimes, like you said, it's completely random. It depends on what you get. Maybe it does absolutely nothing for you, and I've had situations where it just fills my hand with absolute garbage. But that's evocation specifically. Temporary has been a pretty cool keyword overall. There's a card called the Solarium, which is for Warlock, which is 1 mana, draw 3 cards, and those are temporary. And that card was interesting. It was very, very good at its time, but I don't know if it's going to win me more games than Windfury, and I highly doubt it would. So I agree with you on this case.
That was 1 mana for that Warlock effect?
Yes, it was very good.
That's very good. Yeah, like in Magic, it's like 1 mana for 2 cards, not 3. Yeah, that would be insane in Magic.
Your next keyword is Overkill. You could probably guess what Overkill is. It is dealing more damage than the minion's life.
So when I'm looking at Blast Wave for 5, it says deal 2 to all minions and Overkill, add a random mage spell to your hand. Does that trigger for each minion?
That triggers for each minion and friendly minions and opponents.
Are you telling me if a bunch of 1 health cards are on the field, like say 6 of them just for funsies, and I play Blast Wave, I draw 6 cards, 6 random mage spells?
Yes, that's what you would generate them. You would draw, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
You're giving me this card because you know that my eyes are just lighting up of like, oh my god,
I gave it to Simo.
I 7 cards with this. Oh my god. Oh geez. Oh no, that can't be a typical Overkill card. That can't be. Oh my god, that's so good. And I bet it never happens. That's the worst part, Rarran. I bet playing this, that never happens. I bet it's just no Zerg army ever just has a bunch of 1 toughness. You never get to untap with like 7 1 toughness little tokens and cast Blast Wave and draw 7 cards. I bet it never even happens. And you've got me dreaming about it. This card has trap written all over it. If you give this spell damage bonuses, then I bet it triggers more. That's pretty good. That's pretty cool. Hey, it's a cool card. It still has trap written all over it. Obviously, it's similar with Windfury, is that like you're not going to put Windfury on a 1-mana 2/1 because that would be insane. But there are ways to give Windfury to things of all kinds of stats. As opposed to these always feel like they're going to be overcosted because of the slight promise of getting something in return. This card is awesome. I'm sure that the content Blast Wave is real. I'm sure it is. I still think that when things get tough, you don't want to overpay for an extra piece of value that's random. I'm sure you only want to pay on rate and get things that are going to be good. So I'm going to stick with Windfury.
Okay, you made a really good decision.
Thank you.
Overkill is arguably the worst keyword in the game. Arguably. Blast Wave was a good card. The problem with Overkill is that if you're like it has like I'm gonna call it like attacks, because they want you to do the Overkill mechanic. It is so unlikely that you're gonna get it consistently that it almost feels like you don't have that extra benefit. And that's like the case with almost every card for the Overkill. And because maybe they thought it was gonna be too snowbally, because some of the cards are like on minions, right? So if it keeps overkilling, you keep getting value. It never worked like that ever. Like it was a pretty rough mechanic, and it didn't really see a ton of play. Now, the one caveat to this is that Rostakon's Rumble, the expansion it was printed in, was a really bad expansion in terms of power. I don't know why, it's just the way that they decided to do it. And maybe if the cards were stronger, like maybe if Blast Wave was 4 mana, like maybe it would have been like a much better effect and Overkill would have saw a ton more play. But I'm basing this off of like what I see, and it was like one of the worst keywords in the game. Okay, your next one's for Outcast. Do you remember what Outcast is?
Oh,
this is like a good test to see if you remember all this stuff.
Outcast. God, it's going to be hard for me to make this call without only thinking about Skull of Gul'dan.
If that's the case, I'll show you one more card that I showed Simo as well, which is this one. I think this is like a really good way of showcasing it.
Spectral Sight, draw a card, Outcast, draw another. 2 mana, draw 2, and Magic is crazy, and people always try to find a way to get one. In Hearthstone, that's got to be pretty damn good. You can't rearrange your hand, but you have some control over what is where by what you play.
Yes, that is where this mechanic is interesting.
It is. Probably leads to some pretty funky turns where you're just making plays that the opponent's like, well, that's good for me, but they don't even know you're setting up your Outcast. Oh God, both the cards you showed me draw more cards, dude. How am I supposed to ignore that?
Listen, I'm sorry. It's just, I think it's like Skull of Gul'dan to an extent is a really good example of this. Spectral Sight might be the best example of this effect. I think it's really cool. Like, obviously if you top deck it, it's like, okay, like whatever is free, but I think I'm not even a Demon, I hate Demon Hunter, as you know, but I think the concept of like picking the cards you want to cycle over and like trying to get to that Outcast is actually a really fun mini game in the game. Spectral Sight's obviously a good card, and even now it's still played for Demon Hunter. But it's a good showcase of the mechanic.
Without having used it though, it's hard for me to really gauge like how off curve, how awkward do you have to play, and like how do you build your deck? You probably have to take into account deck building to some degree, so that if you have an Outcast card in the wrong spot, you want more of your deck to be playable in such a way, so to help you get there without being too situational. If a card is stuck in your hand and your Outcast card is stuck in a bad position, your game, like, especially if it's early on, if it's like in the first 3 to 5 turns, it feels like your game is almost not unfunctional, but you would never want to just pay 2 mana crystals to draw 1 card. Like that is a bad turn. You're going to have to rally from that. Miracle in Magic, it was a mechanic that was enjoyed, but I think misunderstood to how busted it could be until it actually won the Pro Tour it was legal for. Just straight up came in and won the thing. And people are like, oh, if you just build a deck with tons of these and tons of ways to draw cards on both turns to double the chances of getting your miracle off, like you just have a higher ceiling than your opponent. And I feel like Skull of Gul'dan was probably something similar.
Yeah, I would say to an extent, yes. Skull of Gul'dan, I told this to Sumo, like the reason people learn very quickly that with Outcast, you need to build your deck very low curve because you want to kind of rotate your hand as often as you possibly can. So what ended up happening is Skull of Gul'dan basically was the highest cost card in your deck.
Yeah, and deck building cost.
Yeah, you would manipulate your whole hand or your whole deck around the fact that Skull of Gul'dan drawing you 3 cards and reducing them was so powerful that you would be willing to take that L in deck building.
I love cost reduction. Cost reduction is great, but when you don't have the flexibility to adapt to the board and you feel like you have to do it now, it will lead you to bad situations. It will. It's just the way it is. And it is in many ways, just like a lot of the mechanics before it, it's more value as opposed to a way to necessarily end the game. And I'm still sticking with Windfury. I'm sticking with the thing that does the punch and wins the game. And that's tough because if it were Miracle and Magic, if it were just like Miracle, I might take Miracle here, but I can't do it. I can't do it with Outcast. I just don't see it.
Yeah, so this one's really tough because like you said, like I have memories of Outcast just being so powerful that like that's why it's so good. I think Outcast as a mechanic, as they've developed Demon Hunter more and more, has gotten like kind of, it's basically stayed the same. As other things have gotten more powerful, I feel like Outcast has basically been the exact same in terms of like how Demon Hunter utilizes it. Skull of Gul'dan during the era it was released was just so egregious that it's kind of imprinted in my brain of like how good Outcast can be. But it's tough, like you said, like I think like you can make a case for both. Obviously you're not looking at the entire pool. Outcast as a mechanic is probably easier than you think to get to your other side of your hand, but you're not building an entire deck of Outcast. There's no way. Like you need to have cards that do something without relying on it being on the left or rightmost side of your hand. And as Outcast has continued being developed, they have made cards that say like, draw an Outcast card and put it to the left side of your hand rather than drawing it to your right to try to make that like Outcast mechanic feel better. But yeah, I agree with Windfury. I think it's completely fair. I don't disagree with you picking Windfury every single time, by the way, because I think Windfury is very good. This one is going to be another really interesting one, by the way. This is like your analysis compared to Simo is so different, by the way. It's incredible to listen to where you're coming from. Okay, here we go. Stealth, as you could probably imagine, is pretty obvious, but your opponent cannot target the thing that is stealth. There is a card, by the way, for your hero to be stealth that was played in Rogue for like 3 mana.
Okay. Conceal is 1 to give your minions stealth until your next turn. Stealth. Stealth. I'm remembering watching that first Hearthstone World Championship and just, it was like a shade, right? It was like just 3 mana. You just throw it on the field and like everybody had that shade and it was just lurking there, waiting. Oh yes. My gosh.
I'll say the better example of this for the record, which I hope you saw, is Conceal with Gadgetzan Auctioneer or Conceal with Edwin Van Cleave. Both of those were like game winners on their own. So that's why I think this was a very interesting conversation, because I'm sure in Magic you have like kind of the same effect. But the fact is in Hearthstone, because you can't play on your opponent's turn and they can preemptively set this up, means that like it is very punishing if you don't have a way to answer it like through AoE or something like that.
In Magic, the thought I have is Hexproof. Hexproof and Shroud. 2 abilities that say that the thing cannot be targeted. Shroud says nobody can target it. Hexproof says only you, the controller, can target it. Opponents cannot. Hexproof is obviously better because you can give buffs to your creatures, and it's got its own whole archetypes around Hexproof. Is that you want a cheap Hexproof creature, you put a bunch of buffs on it, you solo the opponent if they can't interact in the right way. And it, like, especially in limited, Hexproof over the years, if it's on the wrong thing, is very negative player experience. But like good creatures with Hexproof find ways to get played, often as like control deck finishers, right? You neutralize your opponent's game plan, you put out this thing, but stealth, like functionally, usually ensures that you'll have 1 turn where this thing gets to attack and do its thing, where it has its board, whatever its board effect is going to last for a turn. That's like kind of...
So yes, but no. So I'll give you an example. If let's say I play Gadgetzan Auctioneer and I stealth it and my opponent brawls, right? Like I could still technically kill the Gadgetzan Auctioneer without targeting it. Yeah, I get what you're saying though. There's a good chance it will survive as 100%. I would agree with you. 100%.
This is an interesting battle because obviously when it takes a card that is borderline unplayable, like just a big meatball, and now you throw stealth on it, and it's like, oh, it's a big meatball. That is probably going to hit something once. If there were Like if they were a reasonably costed thing with 30 power that had stealth, it would be a game-ending threat. Like it just would be.
Yes.
On the other hand, you still have to wait. You know, the opponent still gets one turn of knowing what's coming. We talked about like Windfury. If it's on the board, you remove it because it's a game-ending threat. And Stealth, if it's on the board, you often don't have a choice whether or not to remove it. I'm going to hold out for better. I'm still sticking with Windfury. I think that Stealth... I know, this is getting crazy. I think Stealth is really good. I love the ominous feel of it. As a keyword, I think it's actually pretty well balanced because it doesn't last forever, the way that like Shroud and Hexproof that I described do, basically giving you one shot. This has been printed on a few Magic cards. There's one called Palladium Moors that had Hexproof until it does damage to something. But maybe it's my experience with those cards. It was never quite good enough. You got your one thing in, but then if it died to removal and you invested a good amount of mana and time into it, you still didn't feel great if you only got like one turn with it. And I can see combos, and especially Gadgeton Auctioneer is like, you got my bells ringing. But I still think if I had to choose, I would choose Windfury because, again, I'm still looking at Hearthstone. I'm looking at they can't interact with it, so like on their turn. So if you pop off with Windfury or you give something Windfury out that they didn't expect to have Windfury, you can end the game. That's the way I'm seeing it.
Interesting. Okay, that's fair. This one's tough. Like you're saying, this is like two really powerful keywords. Like the potential is extremely high. Conceal as a card, like I've shown you in a video before, was Hall of Fame because of just how powerful it could be. The fact you give any minion stealth was a really dangerous thing in this game. And like I still remember Gadgeton Auctioneering and just like concealing and just winning the game from it. Or like I said, Edwin Van Cleef, you get like a 12/12 and then you conceal it. Like your opponent can't do anything. Like it's just over. Like, and they have to pray that either A, they're not dead the next turn, or that they have the AoE removal. And I feel like as the game has continued going, they're much more willing to print Windfury than they are Stealth. Maybe that's indicative of the fact that Stealth is like that powerful of a keyword that they have to be careful. Because again, one of the biggest problems with Hearthstone, like you said, is like you only play on your turn. So Stealth leaves kind of a game to feel kind of bad. Like at least with Windfury, I can answer
worse. Windfury out of nowhere or Stealth, where you see it coming for a turn, but there's nothing you can do. Most people would have a better time in the Windfury game.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a really tough one. I think it's completely fair you make this decision. I'm not going to say you're right or wrong, but
you'd pick Stealth.
I think my personal like experience, I think Stealth is the scarier keyword. Like I would rather
in the comments.
Dude, Stealth, like I just think of Classic, and I just remember just like looking at it Edwin Van Cleef and being like, okay, like I guess it's over. This one's Taunt. We're not talking about Battlecry yet. We'll get to Battlecry much later on, because I think Battlecry is one of the better keywords in this entire thing.
Taunt. Oh God, we know Taunt. So like by all this logic of like Windfury can end the game because you can just go face and not interact, Taunt is like the one thing you can do. It is like you can put down those taunt guys, right? Or maybe you can freeze something. Like these are the ways of knowing you're going to see another turn, or at least giving yourself a chance to see another turn. Taunt seems so fundamental to Hearthstone. It seems so important to the game, especially your combat system where you can attack minions directly. Like there isn't choices about blocking like there is in Magic. Like Taunt is so fundamental to your game. If I had to choose these two abilities, meaning I would have no taunts in my deck, or I would have no Windfuries in my deck, I'm choosing Taunt. Like that's it. I'm choosing Taunt. You're not always ahead. Windfury is really, really good when you're ahead. It's really good when you're ahead, and when you're even, it's great. But sometimes you're behind, man. Sometimes you're behind. I've got to take Taunt. I've got to have a chance to live if I'm behind.
Okay. That's a good analysis there. Taunt, like you said, is very pivotal to Hearthstone's gameplay, and it's one of the best keywords because at least your opponent can interact and have a decision. Like, should they trade their minions as the top minion? Should they wait for removal, et cetera, et cetera? And Taunt has been so fundamental to the game that they keep balance. They keep making more cards for that. It's as simple as that. Windfury, I think they don't print nearly as often because they're scared. Taunt is great. It's a really good keyword. The potential is so high, and they can do a ton of stuff with it, which is great. I'm not shocked here at all. By the way, I want to make this very clear to you. At this point, even past Taunt, Simo has stuck with Twin Spell.
Oh my God!
just so you're clear.
Taunt? Oh my God!
We haven't even got, in my opinion, we haven't even got to like the heavy hitters yet. Yeah, it's very funny. Okay, Here's your next one. I don't think I have to explain what this is. I think you could just
start of game, reading Baku. I'm like, this is companion. This is companion.
Oh, Magic, shit, it is. Yeah, it is.
In Magic was like, hey, you have to have this deck building restriction, but if you do, you get this extra card in your companion zone that you can just cast from the companion zone whenever you want. Basically, you had this, like, you know, you had this little buddy. And it was just there all the time. It was like trying to be like commander to standard and stuff. And you know what it was? Broken. 100% broken. There's a lot of different ways they can do start of game. I'm just, if it's anything like companion, it feels close to companion to me. If it's any kind of a decent payoff, yeah, rotate a year early. That's how they handled it. They changed the rules of Magic the Gathering to nerf companion. You were just able to cast them whenever you wanted. It was like an 8th card in your hand. They made it so you had to pay 3 mana to draw it, so that like it at least had a downside. And then after that, years later, as recently as in the last 12 months, they've banned another one in another format. They're still getting banned out of formats again and again and again. The good ones are banned in all these formats, and now they're down to like the 2nd and 3rd tier companions. Gigantha, which is just a very mid companion, is a 5/5 elk for 5. The end. That's basically what it does in these decks. It's a 5/5 for 5. It got banned out of Pioneer because, like,
interesting. Dude, okay, so starting game is broken.
Yeah, goodbye, Taunt. Screw you. This is a broken mechanic.
Okay, that's so. Based on that glowing analysis to start a game, I think this is a tough question. But if I'm basing off like the potential high each keyword has, Baku and Gen were disgusting. Like they were disgusting, and they have definitely toned down the powerfulness of start a game effects. But as much as recently with like the Emerald Dream, there's been a start a game effect that has seen a ton of play as well. Because it just, yeah, like you said, maybe a deck building requirement, but if it's good enough, it will see play no matter what. And that's basically where we're at. And let's see, this one might be here for a very long time, depending on how you feel about other ones. But that was a glowing review. Now you're doing Dredge. Dredge is, you look at the bottom 3 cards of your deck, you pick one to move to the top of your deck. So you know what your next draw will be.
Oh. In Magic, Dredge is broken.
What's in
Dredge is a very different ability. Dredge in Magic is you can replace your draw with this card if it's in your graveyard and mill a certain number of cards. So it's just it just enables decks that are nothing like Magic the Gathering, that are like insane Yu-Gi-Oh decks, is what Dredge is.
Okay, well, yeah, it's not as powerful as it is in Magic.
No, this is when you said Dredge, my heart like skipped a beat on the spot out of like trauma from the past, and then you read me the mechanic. Whatever, dude. Start of game.
All right, so start a game. Start a game. Okay.
Like manipulating the top of your deck is nice to it, but it's not drawing a card. It's no.
That's fair. That is fair. Okay. Well, Aquatic Form draws the card if you have enough mana, but that's why I showed it to you, because I think in theory it is the strong. Well, actually, I think this is the best Dredge card. It's not even fucking close. I understand start a game was probably considered much stronger. In this case, you're looking at Elusive. Elusive is you can't be targeted by hero powers or spells.
Oh my god, Elusive is good. Elusive is really good. Tortola is really good. Oh my gosh. You know, when you were showing me stealth, I was like, am I going to take stealth or am I going to hold out for Elusive? That was going through my head.
Oh,
and
interesting.
I'm holding out for Elusive. And then you went and showed me start of game. I mean, on the right card, the right deck, doing it the right way, Elusive is such a monster. Dude, it's still start a game. Being just ahead of your opponent from the moment you sit down before you've even seen your cards. Like, dude.
Okay. Yeah, we might go through this extremely fast. All right, here's your next one.
Yeah, I mean, Secret scales a lot, both in like the how you play it and what the opponent thinks you have, and if they know the secrets in the format well enough to be able to use the deductive reasoning to figure out what to play around and how best to play against it. So playing against a good player and having secrets can not be as effective as playing against a new player or somebody who just doesn't keep up with what secrets are in your format. But secrets are cool. Another way of interacting, staying alive on the opponent's turn, a counter spell type of secret effect. You'd think I'd be all over that. You would think I would 100% be in on secrets. I'd be so happy about them. Dude, you have to like pay mana for these secrets. Start a game, you just have it. You just queue up and you're already better than your opponent, dude. Like, oh, what? You're gonna pay mana for stuff? I'm already in the lead. I won in the deck building session. How about that?
So I will give credit to some secrets here. Some secrets are really good. Ice Block is one of the best cards Hearthstone has ever seen, like, in existence. But you're right. Like, I have to get it in my hand. I have to play it, and then my opponent can also play around with it because there are cards that answer secrets. Block of the Moon Eater is just, you know, it was good. Like, it's just, there it is. That's right there. You see it immediately. And like literally the worst part about Baku is drawing it. Like, which is so funny to say, but that is the case. You don't want to play a 9 mana 7/8. Like, that's horrible.
Yeah.
But the effect was so good you didn't even care. Next, you have spell damage.
Oh yeah. Magic doesn't have anything quite like spell damage. I guess we kind of do. We have cards like this that you put on the field, and then you're like, when something deals 1 damage, it does 3 instead. Yeah, I guess we have things like that. The weird thing about spell damage is like you can give it as a boost to cards in your hand preemptively, right? So that's interesting. Yeah. And I've definitely seen what spell damage can do. It reminds me of like prowess decks and things like that in Magic, but it like buffing the cards in your hand so that you can just dread them as you go into the future. This is kind of, I get that it's powerful. I get why it's a rewarding archetype. I get why it's been around for a long time. It's not start a game. It's just, it's not free. You got to put the right thing with the right place. In the case of the Silver Moon Arcanist here, it has to be on the board when you do the thing. It's like, why assemble stuff when you can just have things?
That's okay. It's funny hearing you like talk about the mechanic because I already know what you're gonna say going into it. Next is Spellburst. Spellburst means while this creature is on the board or monster is on the board and you play a spell, this procs once, you will proc the Spellburst.
Okay, so this is Cabal Acolyte. It's 4 for a 2/6 with Taunt. Gain control of a random enemy minion with 2 or less attack.
There's a card called Wave of Apathy, which was 1 mana to make all enemy minions have 1 attack until your next turn. So that would proc with that. So that's why I showed you Cabal Acolyte, because that single-handedly would win you a game, by the way. But I'll show you one more because I think this one also deserves an honorable mention, if not deserves it more than Cabal Acolyte.
Diligent Note Taker, 2 for a 2/3. Spellburst, return the spell to your hand. Oh, value. So you get a spell twice.
A spell twice.
Yep. Okay. Is Simo still untradeable at this point?
He is, at this point, he is still on Twin Spell.
Twin Spell, that's it. Sorry, not tradable.
I'm telling you right now, we're about to hit like what I would call the heavy hitters. Like we're starting to hit them a little bit.
I mean, Spellburst is cool. You get this thing, you play a spell, you get, oh yeah, this plus that equals that. Dude, if you gave me Spellburst and Taunt right now, I would probably take start of game. If you gave me those two combined, there's a chance I'd still take start of game. That's where we're at. Okay. Yeah, Spellburst is nice. Good for you. Bye. All
right, next. Silence.
Oh God, you showed me the owl. You knew I love this card. Ironbeak Owl, silence a minion. It loses all its abilities. Really good. Like, actually, with the amount of pressure on minions to do things in this game, silencing a minion, like the owl was just in every freaking deck in that championship I watched, and it was 2 at the time. It was pre-nerf, and at first I was like, is this really just what we're playing? And then over time I was like, oh, I see. Like, that's why you run the Yeti, like unaffected by the owl. Just clutch.
The Yeti.
This is great. When do I get the Yeti as an option?
Yeti won't be here. He unfortunately has no keywords.
Exactly. Where's my vanilla? I can take it over some of these at least.
No way.
No. Battlecry, silence a minion. Silence is good. I love silencing minions. That's great. But it does require that they play a minion that can be silenced. And if they just run Yetis, they play around it. Would the opponent do that? Absolutely not. But there's probably a lot of ways to just generate a lot of stuff where silencing it doesn't like stop it. Things that already have Battlecry, for example, already got their action. You know what I mean? I'm at start of game. We're sticking with start of game. And I love you. I love the Iron Beak Owl. I love you.
All right, this one, that's fair. Silence is very good, but like you said, you need a minion to silence. Sometimes it does literally nothing, and I'm actually saying that in current Hearthstone where there is a librarian card that has a silence and it has tradable, and I feel like I often trade it more than I play the card. So that's a good example of that. All right, this is probably going to be the one that might break start a game, so I'm very curious to see what you say. Obviously, you're looking at Rush.
Oh, yes. Scale of Nixia. Fill your board with 2/1 whelps with Rush. Getting to come down and do something right away. So rewarding. So rewarding, Rarran. Not having to sit there waiting, hoping you get to do something cool. The Rush thing is interesting because I feel like it's similar to Magic in that now something can come down that doesn't have a battle cry and you get something right away. And then probably the first time you put a death rattle on it, people are like,
Yes, you're so right.
And I think that I can see why that's good. We're definitely in a spot in Magic where if you're playing an aggressive creature deck, like either your creature has haste or it doesn't. Either it attacks the turn it comes down or it doesn't. If it doesn't, like, and it's like 3 or 4 mana, it's all like a lot of people are looking at these as close to unplayable in aggressive decks. Like the rest of the text has to be good. Its ability to clear a taunt so that you can go face with the things that survived a turn. Like, that's huge. You put Rush on a life stealer and now you know you're going to gain a certain amount of life. Like, oh, this one's harder. Now,
this should be hard.
Is it worth it? Is it worth it to hang on to the start of game? Because again, like, you just did the deck building thing and you have an advantage. I'm going with start of game.
Wow, what
I'm doing
the
it.
Fuck?
I'm staying with it. I'm staying with it. I'm staying with it.
This was like probably the hardest one I've showed you so far. Because again, like I said, Rush is a keyword that has been so fundamental to what Hearthstone has become. And start a game to an extent, yes, but nothing has impacted the game like Rush has other than probably Battlecry. And I think if you took start a game out of Hearthstone right now, I think, it'd probably roughly be about the exact same where it's at. Rush, the game would be a completely different game at this point. Like, it wouldn't even look relatable to what it is currently because Rush has become so fundamental what the game has become. I'm not gonna, again, this is your list, but I think it is almost impossible to pass Rush. And you want to hear the funniest thing about this is that Sivo fucking picked Twin Spell over Rush.
Okay, fair. I get it. I know why that's funny.
So,
oh, wow.
It's fun. Okay, so we'll stay with start a game. That's completely fair. Next up is recruit.
Do you think if they had kept printing start of game, like if they had printed start of game in every expansion, like with Rush, do you think that would still be true what you said about the game not being changed?
So I think maybe I should take back what I said because I think they learned so much from what Baku and Gen did to the game is why they stopped printing start a game as often, because they realized very quickly that if every game played the exact same way because you just hit the hero power button every single time, it makes Hearthstone less fun and have less variance, which is not really what they're going for. So you know what? Maybe start a game did impact Hearthstone, but it's not as obvious because they realized their mistake very quickly, like very early on. Yes and no to your answer to your question. Sorry, it's hard to really tell you because it depends on how they design the cards. Like they have it, like I said, they still print start a game stuff now, but it's not nearly as powerful as it's been. Like for instance, there's a card called Ysera Emerald Aspect and Emerald Dream, which is start a game, increase both players' maximum mana by 5. Really unique idea, but it's not like an immediate thing you notice. It's just there in the background as the game keeps going on and on, but maybe the game ends before you even see it.
Yeah.
But that's a good balancing in design wise of like, how do you start a game? Where Baku again was like, hey, the game's going to be like, I'm going to hit my hero power button every single turn. Good luck.
Yeah, because I'm better than you. I built the deck different and I'm better than you. That's it.
So next up is recruit. Recruit means to pull a random minion from your deck and put it on the battlefield. It does not get its Battlecry. If it was Magic, it would get the into the battlefield effect. But yeah, no.
When your hero, okay, Woe Cleaver. When your hero attacks, recruit a minion. So from your deck.
From your deck, and kind of like Baku, you would probably want to build your deck in a particular way.
So you just proc this, and you get something that you know you want onto the field. That's probably a combo. That probably does something broken. This is nasty. The fact that you can deck build for a specific interaction or it's just straight value is nasty. Now we have a mechanic that's doing mana cheating and tutoring. Now we're competing here. Now maybe sitting there nailing my hero power 6 turns in a row just dies to the combo. I imagine it's very limiting, but start of game can be limiting too. I mean, these are both... You can tell my bias is like, you can win a game in deck building, like I'm gonna do it instead of leaving it up to what happens in the game itself. Like if you can just build a broken deck because you have access to something the opponent doesn't, and like recruit, I can see it. I can see it.
Yeah. I will say for recruit, it was a one-time thing, and they have printed it again, but they don't use the keyword for some reason. But recruit was one of the better keywords they made, and for obvious reasons, right? Like you said.
Yeah, it comes down to
is good.
Yeah, can you do a combo with this? Can I do a combo that's good enough and better than like building under this restriction that starts me off with just a huge advantage? I think I can. It doesn't take much. You just have to have a card in hand and a card in deck, and you recruit it, sneak it onto the field, and then do a thing. Okay. Like maybe those cards weren't printed for Hearthstone, but in my mind, like thinking of eternal formats in games like Magic, like I'm just immediately like, yep, you can probably win the game with that.
That's fair.
I'm going to take it. I'm going to take recruit.
Okay. So I'll say recruit. This was the expansion before Starter Game came out. And even with Baku in the game, one of the best decks in the format was called, like, I don't even know what it's called. I guess it's like Demon Warlock is what I'm going to refer to it as. And there was a card called Possess Lackey, which was 5 mana. And if it died, you recruited a demon. And because you could recruit 9-cost demons or a Doom Guard, it was really consistent and really good. And they had to nerf that card because it was too powerful too soon. And with the combination of Blood Reaver Gul'dan, if you remember him, the 10 mana guy that resurrected all your demons that died this game, it was terrifying of what that deck could do. It was a meta tyrant for a very long time. And people probably still remember like hitting into Void Lords over and over again. But I think above all else, like you said, it's mana cheating. And consistent mana cheating, because you know what you're mana cheating into, but depending on how you build your deck. Now, as it's continued going, I think it's safe to say it's not as powerful because they really pushed that mechanic when it was introduced. But I can't disagree with you either. Cheating mana is just very good. But this is Reborn. Reborn is when a minion dies with Reborn, it is resurrected at 1 life.
Ooh, yeah. I've seen what this can do. This is... Yeah, I figured out, I did that sponsored video for Battlegrounds, and I was like, okay, Reborn's great. We love Reborn. Oh my goodness. There's various magic abilities that are similar. Persist comes to mind, where something dies, and that has enabled combos. There's been very good cards. And I think so. I'm going to think about cards like that. I'm going to think about a card called Jarl's Messenger against a card called Birthing Pod, because to me, those were in the same standard, and they remind me of these two effects. Like Birthing Pod is like recruit, where like you build your deck a certain way and you cheat the big thing onto the field. And Jarl's Messenger is like Reborn. Very awesome cards. Both good cards, both in good decks, both amazing. If I were lining up trying to pick what to play, I would pick Pod, which means I would stick with recruit. But this is Hearthstone. Does that change things? There's probably... No, I'm going to stick with recruit.
That's fair. That is fair. I think Reborn's one of the better keywords they've ever released. But other than like maybe a couple effects here and there, for the most part, recruit has always been more dangerous and has definitely more impact on the game when it is successful. So I would agree with you 100%. Like, I think recruits is better. All right, cool. This one's probably going to be an easy decision, but quick draw means when the card enters your hand the turn you play it, it gets the quick draw effect.
Is that easy? That's free.
That's not free.
You draw this and you get something for free, right?
Yeah, but if it's in your hand the turn you play, like if it's already in your hand by the time you play it, it doesn't do anything. It just Doesn't get the quick draw effect.
Maybe I misunderstand. I'm getting the impression that when I draw this from the top of my deck, this would deal 6 damage.
That would work. Yes, that works. But if it's already in your hand, it does nothing. It doesn't have the quick draw effect.
Wait, so if this is the first card I draw in a game, it's just 6 damage on the spot?
No. You have to spend the mana cost for the card.
Oh, I thought it just happened. I thought you got 6 damage just for putting this in your hand.
I see what you're saying.
I thought if you drew this on turn 1, the opponent's face takes 6. That's what I thought this was.
No.
Okay,
so you have to play the mana cost to get the effect. Okay. Yes. That would be fucking silly if that's how that interacted.
Okay, so how it works in practice is you draw this, and if in that turn where you put this into your hand, kind of like Tradeable, right? Or not Tradeable, temporary, kind of like temporary. If you pay this on the turn you drew it, you get the quick draw effect.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm recruit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I figured that'd be an easy decision. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool mechanic, but yeah, it doesn't. In practice, it's not as good as you think it is.
I was like, is he baiting me? If you just got that just for drawing, it would be so busted.
No. This is poisonous. So if this minion does any damage to anything other than a hero, it does.
Good. It's like Death Touch and Magic. Good ability. Small thing, kill big thing. Very nice. Maybe it's colored because of Magic, but I don't think so. Like in Magic, this is often on small creatures. And when you have one up and you're threatening to block some big thing with it, like it's very annoying, but you just play some AoE or you play a removal spell and you're fine. Or you do just trade and life goes on, because it's still a 1-for-1, even if, like at its best, it's often just a 1-for-1. The way that it is better in Hearthstone is you can choose what to attack. So one of these can break you through the biggest freaking taunt minion on the spot. Like that's really good. The fact that you can attack minions directly makes this much better in Hearthstone. So I can see why it's this high up on like approaching our Mount Rushmore of keywords, but I'm still sticking to recruit because I don't think poisonous by nature is broken. It's still a card for a card at the end of the day, whereas recruit is probably a combo that can just put you so far ahead and win you a game.
Okay, I got you. Okay, here's your next one.
Yeah, you pay 3 this turn and you get an above rate effect, 3 damage to all enemy minions, but on your next turn you have to pay 1 or you just never get 1 to pay. So you're down a mana crystal.
You're down a mana crystal,
through that turn till the end of that turn. That in Magic is like upkeep or echo. Those are the mechanics in Magic that have played with this. They were a big part of sets long ago. I don't think they're basically not even printed anymore because nobody wanted them and nobody pays them and everybody hated it. There are various cards that have lasting effects until your next turn because they were below rate. And over time in Magic, those cards have been seen to not be as good. Like, there's only a few that I would say you still want to play. I'm thinking of Pact of Negation, which is an interesting card that a Slaughter Pact is another one. These are cards that cost 0 mana the turn you play them, but then you have to pay an above rate amount the next turn. I'm going to stick with Recruit. That might be a Magic bias because you might print far stronger Overload cards in Hearthstone, but I'm still going to stick with Recruit.
So Overload's been like a mechanic from the very beginning. It's for Shaman. It's like their class identity. And I think in most cases, it's not as good as you probably think it will be. Lightning Storm used to say 2 to 3 damage, which was... Wow. Absolute miserable experience for both players. So next is Overheal. You get Overheal by healing above its maximum life.
This seems like really specific to Priest because
it is a Priest mechanic.
Yeah, the hero power is right there. Like a card like this is probably great. You probably love to see that you can turn that hero power into card draw, and if you can somehow buff it, I bet it's a big pain in the neck. Like healing's nice, but what about just cards that just destroy the minions and they're just gone? And now you have nothing to heal. What if you play your Overheal thing and, I don't know, they do keep its life in check and you're wasting your hero power. Well, not wasting, but like if all you're doing is gaining back the stats and not the Overheal ability, it doesn't sound as good. I can see it's a very good game plan to build around. I like that, but I bet in practice, it's not as available as you want it to be. I'm still taking, how about we cheat out minions? How about we recruit a minion? How about we just build in such a way to cheat out the best thing? I'm still sticking with that.
So I'm going to say in terms of Overheal, most of the cards have been absolutely useless, and there's been a couple of them that have been very good, but it needed a ton of support for it to work. And once you get that critical mass, the Overheal does become a lot better. Clergy is banned it was like banned in Wild. I think it's still banned in Wild. I'm actually not 100% sure what happened because of like the amount of critical mass of healing you can get to draw a ton of cards. But in Standard, which is what I'm basically analyzing this for, it has not been as powerful as Recruit in most cases. And I'm using Recruit, by the way, for anyone who's curious, like if a card says randomly pull a minion from your deck, that is Recruit. That's what it is, even if it doesn't say Recruit. Miniaturize. Miniaturize means you get a 1-mana 1/1 copy of the minion in your hand.
In your hand, so you get the Battlecry again. I remember Shutter Block. This is messed up. This is a great example of Miniaturize. This has to be one of the best things you can miniaturize. So yeah,
this is one of the best ones. It's tied. There's one other rogue card that is very good, but I should do this one.
This is insane. Like, oh my gosh. And this is where it's like you start to look at Battlecry itself. Because with a good Battlecry, or maybe even with a good Death Rattle, right? Now Miniaturize gets to be insane as you get these spells at a very cheap rate that you shouldn't be able to get at that rate. And attached to a body. So if you have more ways to clone it, copy it, or do more with that body, like the issues spiral. So now we're looking at maybe it's worth it to pay the mana cost for our minions instead of just cheat them out of the deck with Recruit. This is more interesting because you get double. This is very interesting.
Okay.
This is where my value brain starts saying, is Recruit going to get defeated by Miniaturize? I'm going to have to I've got to keep saying no though, because I think that I'm still viewing Recruit as like a way to really do something overpowered. It's mana cheating. It's getting exactly what you want. I just still see that as like a game over situation, whereas you still have to draw these Shutter Block, play the Shutter Block, get the thing in the hand, play the other thing. None of that is particularly hard, but you're paying the full cost. You're paying the full cost for one of these things to get the future thing at the lower rate. I can see it as mana cheating when you cast the second one, but you still have to go through the hoops for the first one. So I'm still going to stick with Recruit.
Okay. I think that's completely fair. The one I was talking about that's against Shutter Block for the best Miniaturize would be the Rogue one, which it's like the name is, I can't remember what it's called, but it's 5 mana 4/3 Battlecry. Your next card costs 0 or 3 less, sorry, 3 less. And then you get the miniature at 1. And with Rogue, you could Shadow Step it. You can bounce that 1 cost back to your hand and you could do some pretty insane turns with it. And that is like maybe the best use case of Miniaturize I've seen. Shutterblock is obviously extremely good as well, and there's been really broken combos with it that we've seen. So this one's kind of a toss-up. Miniaturize is brand new to the game. We've never had it until last year, and it has been a pretty impactful keyword overall. I think a lot of people really enjoy it. But yeah, I think it's safe to say like cheating mana is just really, really good. So I don't blame you at all. Let's get this one out of the way. Inspire means that you're spending 2 mana and you do your hero power for the effect. Ignore this card. It didn't have Battlecry before in Standard. It used to just have Inspire until it was buffed.
Inspire is what?
Inspire is you use your hero power to get the effect. You have to spend 2 mana to get the effect.
To get the Inspire effect. So this has to be on the field and you have to use your hero power and you get summon a random legendary minion?
Yes.
I mean, that's just, it's kicker. You just spend 2 more for an extra effect. So no, I'm not going to pay more to get the thing when I can just get something busted for free.
You don't need to analyze that even further. Everyone is going to agree with you on that one. Good. There's not a single person who's going to be like, well, actually, Inspire was... No, you're not going to get that. You're not getting that. We'll move on to the next one.
I can see why the art is inspiring. I'll just put that out there.
Okay. All right, Infuse. Infuse means, while this is in your hand, for every friendly minion that dies, you add 1 to the Infuse until you get the amount of friendly minions that die equal to the Infuse cost. So if 7 friendly minions die, you get the Infuse.
Oh, okay. So it's a cumulative thing that you need to build up for.
Yes. Reminder, it has to be in your hand.
I mean, Sylvanas is a really good card. The best case scenario, the ceiling is very high if this is in your hand early, but it is taking away from what you can be doing. Maybe it doesn't help you curve out. You probably have to draw pretty nutty to make it all actually work on curve when you want it to work. It's not a bad card, but it's nowhere near as good as it could have been. And that's going to feel pretty bad because that spot could have been occupied by a great card, especially as the format gets bigger and the game gets better. Like, yeah,
okay.
I'm still recruiting.
So the one card I didn't show you was Sire Denathrius, which was a 10-mana 10/10 Battlecry. Every time a friendly minion dies, you say infuse 1. This would get 1 more damage. Basically, what you do is if you got that in your hand, you would just summon stuff the whole game. You just delay the game, summoning more and more stuff, and then eventually you just kill your opponent.
Yeah,
from hand.
Bang.
That card was insanely fucking good, and then they nerfed it to 2 infuse so that it would be twice as bad.
Nice.
So
can't have people just winning the game in our card game. Come on now.
So but it was like the strategy of Gen and Baku where it almost felt like it was the same thing over and over again. They didn't want that in the game, which is respectfully like correct. It was kind of whatever. So they nerfed that card. Every other infuse other than Sylvanas has felt pretty lackluster, even though it's not a horrible mechanic. It's actually fun to play with because you kind of have to think about your turns coming up rather than just what you're doing for your current turn, which is cool. But I don't think it competes to cheating out an entire minion for free. So I kind of still agree with you. Okay, let's get this one out of the way. This is immune, means you can't target it.
Can't target with anything?
While there is any other whelp on board, you cannot target Onyxia. You could still kill it with an AoE, you just can't target it. Almost think of it like stealth, but if you did like AoE damage to it, like let's say you did Flame Strike, it would not take damage as long as there's a whelp on board. Where if a minion is stealth, it would still take damage.
Yep, immune's great. You can play it and you'll probably get to do a thing with it before it dies. That's great. That's nice. You still have to pay for it, and you still have to draw it, and it still has to dodge AoE, and it doesn't just go, boom, here it is on the board to do my thing. So immune, cool keyword. I'm sticking with recruit.
Okay, easy enough. I figured recruit's going to make it probably until like the end here.
We'll see.
Here's another banger for you. This is honorable kill, which means unlike overkill, you have to kill it its exact all the way to 0. Like you have to end its life at 0. Meaning if you see Brasswing has 7 life, in order for you to get the honorable kill on Brasswing, you would have to do exactly 7 damage to it.
I'm sure you can build around this and like give yourself an achievement and post it on social media. Like, I don't know. Yeah. There's probably ways to like set up your numbers to get your honorable kill, but it's just like, is this really, this is Hearthstone? Like we want to line up how to get a perfect honorable kill on our minions. What happened to like summoning a dragon with intent to use it to win the game, not just find a way to dumpster it in your graveyard? It feels like such an unrewarding mechanic. Honorable kill.
You know, that's a really good way of putting it. I would say, obviously, I think you're just picking a recruit here. So, almost every honorable kill card was just so bad. Like it's so difficult to get it. There's one legendary, which I said this to Simo too. His name is Korak, and he's a 4-mana 3/5, and he had a death rattle of he keeps being resummoned unless you honorably kill him. Which that one was kind of fun to play with because it put your opponent in a weird spot to kill it. But other than him, it's like it felt really weird and janky, and it wasn't a super great mechanic overall. It just was too specific, and it felt like you almost never got it. Brasswing was kind of okay because your opponent need to actually kill it, obviously, but you're also just doing 2 damage to everything, so it felt fun or felt fine. But overall, like horribly bad. It was like almost on the terms of Inspire. Okay, freeze.
Oh, dude. Part of me thinks I would love freeze.
You as a blue player would love freeze.
Oh my gosh. I would be an old school freeze mage in my heart. I love watching the old freeze mage games. Oh, it's so beautiful, dude. But it's not broken. It's just fair magic.
Okay.
Fair Hearthstone, rather.
Depends on who you ask.
I'm sure it's frustrating for them. I would find it very fun and rewarding to be doing it to others, which is why I'm a blue mage. It's why I'm a blue mage. I see, freeze, especially the lower you price it, the more miserable it gets. The more common you print it, the more miserable it gets. The more, if you put draw a card on it, the broken it gets. Like, I get it. Like freeze it's a nightmare, dude. But like it's not. It's too fair. Are you? Am I crazy? It's too fair. It's like prolonging the game strategy. Give yourself set up and do some end game and invalidate all the stuff they do. I love a lot of things about it. There's a card called Stasis in Magic though that just meant nobody got any untap phase for as long as it was on the board, and as long as you got to pay its upkeep cost every turn, it just never went away. And that could build broken decks because it was one card locked the game down forever. The problem I found with freeze, even at like really low levels when I was just learning the game, was like, yeah, you run out of freeze stuff and now the stuff is still there. Oh God.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, it was probably a skill diff because I was very new. But
that's fair. Okay.
That's fair enough. It's still like, it feels free. It feels fair to me from a Magic perspective because there are still other ways you can lose the game, like direct damage, right? You can just go to face.
Sure.
You can just go to face. It doesn't stop them from casting and generating other value and setting combos up for the future. Like, they can still put stuff out there unless they have a full board and they got frozen. That sounds like a skill diff. I like freeze. It just doesn't feel broken to me. I'm going to stick with recruit.
I mean, this one's tough for sure. I feel like you're really underestimating how good freeze has been in Hearthstone. Like, Frost Nova is, God, what a fucking card this has been.
Beautiful card. Beautiful.
It's a crazy powerful effect. You can make the case that, yes, like freezing, all it does is delay the game, but sometimes all you need is one extra turn. This is a toss-up for me. I think it would be incredibly interesting to see what people say, because Simo did not have the same thing, same King of the Hill battle. I think what is he at this point, actually? I haven't even checked. He is currently on Reborn.
He's off Twin?
He's on Reborn.
He's on Reborn. Wow.
He's on Reborn. He
That's
really liked
crazy.
Reborn.
Okay.
So yeah, I agree with you, and I don't agree with you. I think you're really underestimating how powerful this effect is in Hearthstone coming from a Magic player. This is Echo. Echo is after you play this, it goes back in your hand as like a temporary, and you can play this card as many times as you can in a turn until you run out of mana.
Oh my God, that's way better than Echo in Magic. Echo in Magic is you have to pay the mana cost again the following turn. You basically pay for it twice. What? Yeah, this is brutal. It's an old mechanic. They don't make them like that no more.
Okay, I will say you can't reduce this card's cost below 1. They changed that mechanic because in Wild, what you used to be able to do with Snip Snap here specifically is there was a card that said, it was Mech Warper. It said your mechs cost 1 less. So you would get enough to make this cost 0. And then you would spend your whole turn stacking up 1 minion with this, with Magnetic, and one-shot them. It was great. People loved it. And they banned it. They changed the mechanic because of that interaction. So that's where Echo is.
Because this has Magnetic, so you just keep slapping it on the same thing. You don't run out of spots.
Yes. That was for Wild, though. So beyond what Echo was in Standard, that's not what it was like at all. But that was like maybe the best example of what Echo could do.
Okay. So the fair version is a card that is already good with good numbers that can do cool things that if you have extra crystals, you get more of. That's the fair version.
That's how I would analyze this card from your perspective.
Okay. Reminds me of a brief keyword that only happened, I think, in Brothers War for Magic called Prototype, where you pay the prototype cost and you get like, there's this card like Skitter Beam something or other. And it was like a 2/2 with haste for 5. But when you cast it for that prototype cost, it made like 3 copies of itself. I don't know.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of that. That had its moments. There are definitely ways to get paid for a bunch of things entering the battlefield. There are definitely ways to just get paid for having a wide battlefield, and having it all confined to one card that can scale up is very good. I think it's a good card. I'm going to stick with Recruit. I just still see Recruit as broken, and I see this as value. And I'm going to take broken each time.
Other than Snip Snap, Echo was pretty lackluster. I showed you Snip Snap because it was by far the best card, and it was very versatile. It was really cool when you had Max on board, and you can kind of decide whether or not you want that power immediately or on another body. Really, really cool card. Nothing else to really say here. Divine Shield. First time this would take damage, it does not take damage.
Recruit. I don't know. I've never respected Divine Shield. We've seen these videos. I never put enough respect on it, and I won't start today.
That is fair. Divine Shield has the potential to be really good against certain things, but it's not like it's doing something insanely broken. It just can be really, really good. Okay, this is one where I think you're gonna have to think about it a little bit more. Recruit versus Discover.
Oh, I love Discover. I love Discover. Oh God, Discover is so sweet. It's from your deck, right? So you know it's...
No, it depends on what the wording of Discover is. Discover can go from anything, like randomly generate a card. It could say discover a spell from your deck. Therefore, you would pick from your deck, right? It could be discover a spell from your opponent's deck, right? It all depends on how Discover is worded on the card itself. If the card just says discover a spell like Renew says, it is a random spell from your class or neutral that is randomly generated into the game.
All right. Man, I love Discover so much. One of my favorite things that they do in Hearthstone, whether it is from your deck or from outside the game, it's just really cool that you can introduce things in that way.
Yes.
And in Magic, I'm very much casting cards that let me look at like the top 3, pick the one, put it in my hand. And that's like as close as we get to something like a Discover. And Discover is just so much more fun. Oh... I still have to stick with... I gotta stick with the busted thing. I've got to stick with Recruit. I've got to do it. I've got to do it. Recruit,
wow,
it gets the thing to the field, and you can build your deck in a way so that you always know what you're getting.
I am shocked. I'm shocked.
I'm fighting RNG into the grave.
Okay, so kind of like Rush, Discover has fundamentally changed how Hearthstone has been played since its existence. And I think when it comes to purely design, Discover is so fucking interesting to play with. The sky, just from mechanic, is so high. Like I said, it said like from your deck, your opponent's deck, there's also just a bunch of ways you can limit the pool. Discover an undead, discover a fire spell. There's so many ways you could do it that is so interesting that makes the gameplay fun. When it's at a critical mass, it can be a little annoying because it's a lot of randomness, but holy, I would never pick Recruit over Discover. And that's why this is interesting.
I'm fighting the RNG. You love the RNG. I can't
believe you picked, I actually can't believe it, but it's not as bad as picking Twin Spell over Rush. So whatever, it's fine. I respect it. Okay. Death Rattle. When this minion dies, you get the Death Rattle. Pretty obvious.
God, I like Death Rattle too. Oh, this is where it's really close because Death Rattle, it's on board, dude. It's on board. You already paid for the thing, and now you have a minion. A minion, you can do so many things with a body on board. Like a lot of what I want to cheat out with this Woe Cleaver is Death Rattle stuff. You know? Come on.
Okay, sure.
Come on.
Okay, respectful, I guess. Sure.
You can't believe I would like Death Rattle more than Discover, can you? But
I just continue. It's fine.
Minions are so much. They're so much different in your game because they're removal. All of them are removal. So like them dying is part of the equation. Death Rattle is like a card draw. But can be better because you don't have to cast it. It's there. The Death Rattle on the egg is there is a 4/4 on board you did not have to cast. That's like really good. I've seen also a lot of Death Rattles that are very just small bits of value here and there, but then there's a bunch of ways to get them back and trigger them again, and on it goes. Like, and this is also part of that Hearthstone Battlegrounds thing. Death Rattles were goated in that game. But like, man, is it busted? It's much better than a dies trigger is in Magic, and those are already pretty good. Because you can basically trade these. Everything is removal. Every minion is removal because it can't attack another minion. So I think they're better than Magic, but I'm still more of a recruiter. I'm more of a pod player, so I'm going to stick with Recruit. But this one was harder.
Death Rattle in the early days of Hearthstone was very good, like you said. As the game has gotten newer, or I guess, sorry, as the game has gotten older, Death Rattle's become worse and worse. Because the game is faster paced, and the slower the Death Rattle is, Death Rattle's mechanics just felt like it's become slower because it's further behind the speed of everything else. So unless a Death Rattle is extremely pushed, or there's a way you can manipulate it, or there's a way you can abuse it, it almost feels like Death Rattle is just not as good as it could be. This is Corrupt. Corrupt means while this is in your hand, if you play a card that costs more mana than this, it will corrupt. Ooh. And then you have to pay the card after. Now, you saw during the Rarran's Rumble, the card is Shaladrossel. I think that's how you pronounce it. I call it salad dressing, if you remember. Where you got the corrupted dream cards. Like, that is the current iteration of this mechanic. But this was a mechanic for Darkmoon Faire. And I showed you the clown because the clown slapped.
Yeah, I see that. Summon 2 copies of this. Corrupt. Fill your board with copies. You have so many. Like 7, right? That's where it goes?
7. 7, 7, 7.
I don't like that. Not only do I have to play one thing, I have to play another thing first that's more expensive than this to get the maxed out version of this. There's a lot that can go wrong there, Rarran. There's a lot that can go wrong.
There's a lot.
There's a lot that can go wrong. I'm sticking with Recruit. I'm sticking with Recruit.
I'm going to give a lot of credit to Corrupt. I think it's one of the best mechanics they've introduced. I like the fact that you have to play the game slower for a bigger payoff. This card in particular was really cool with a card called Survival of the Fittest for Druid, which was 10 mana. Give all minions in your hand, board, and deck +4/+4. So when this card came on the board after it was corrupted, you got a bunch of 8/8s. All had Taunt. And it filled your board up. Really powerful turn for Druid specifically, because obviously Druid's the only one Survival of the Fittest. But yeah, I would agree with you. Recruit's better. But the clown was crazy.
I'm picturing like all these clowns in a Druid deck, like full of nature and natural stuff, and then these clowns just come out of the woods, double as thick as you'd expect. Jesus Christ.
The deck literally was, by the way, was just like ramp, Survival of the Fittest, clown. Do you have an answer? You don't. XD, you lose. Like that was the It was called Clown Druid. Like it was literally a circus. Okay. We're getting to I would say maybe the four most important keywords in the game, other than Discover and Rush. Corpses. Death Knight specific. This means that for every time a friendly minion dies, you gain a corpse, and those corpses can be used as a resource for cards such as Mirror Manipulator.
Yep, it's a free resource in the game. Magic has had these too. When you just have a resource you can spend in a different way and you get access to it and the opponent doesn't, it can be overwhelming. In Magic, we had energy. If you were playing an energy deck, you just had more. Your stuff did more because you had an extra resource that non-energy decks just weren't taking advantage of, just weren't accessing. And a lot of the energy cards just were there to, like, you just played the game. I think I showed you a Tune with Aether. One of the most ridiculous cards to ever get banned was just 1 green mana, search for a land and put it in your hand, a basic land, and you get 2 energy. But it was the fact that you had ways to pay that energy off later. You were just playing a different game, and this is the Corpses game. Is the extra Corpses resource game better than recruiting a minion that you have built your deck to recruit directly onto the battlefield? Like, boom, here it is. Is that better? Oh, God, this one's actually tough. I am picturing it like energy as like this free extra resource. And when you had access to it, you were better off. Am I like discording? Does this sound like Corpses? Am I like way off on that?
So I would say, other than one card, there's a card that says like Battlecry, your next card can be spent with corpses. Like you can play with corpses and rather than paying the mana cost.
I mean, yeah, like there you go.
That's your
insane.
example.
That's insane.
There is a lot of the time though, I would say it's more like what it is with Mirror Manipulator, which is like spend up to this amount of corpses and gain this additional effect. Yeah, that's what it usually would come down to. So I would base it more off Mirror Manipulator's version of it rather than the way you're thinking about it, but not to say that those cards don't exist.
I mean, but that's still really good. It's like up to 5 corpses, so you have a 6 mana 5/5 entering. If you played the game a certain way, now you're dealing, is that 10 damage?
10 damage.
Yeah, to the enemies? Yeah, 6 to deal 10. That sounds pretty above rate. That's Jesus.
Yeah, I would say yes. I would say it was good.
That's really good. It's a free resource in a way. It's
rewarding
you for playing the game, not for changing the game, for playing the game. It's in this specific class. As long as this class's cards, like without taking corpses into effect, are at a good baseline, everything you can do with a corpse puts it ahead, puts it above the line.
Yes, Death Knight has good cards.
Obviously.
So
that's
yeah,
messed up. I mean, that is a case of like, I just showed up with the better class and the better deck. That's the way that feels. And that to me is what I'm looking to do in one game, like for my life or whatever we're basing this on. I want to win in the deck building. I just want to have the better deck than the other mechanic. Oh, God, that's really tough though. Is this just more good resources, whereas recruit is just win the game, do the broken thing? That is the thing I have to keep coming back to. This is the closest I've been. I'm going to stick with recruit. It's still just get the free thing. It's still just build your deck and get the free thing.
Wow.
It's still that good.
That's a tough one. Corpses have been... Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm punching my chair a little bit. I'm like, that was hard.
Corpses have been really good. Easily one of the most impactful mechanics we've seen in the game, and they did a really good job doing it for Death Knight. Death Knight is like the rune system really stops it from being super egregious, because if you can like mix and match all these cards together, it'd be probably a problem. But because it's not like that, and you have to build a particular way, all the corpses interact in a really interesting way because of like the rune requirement. It's tough. I don't know. I think I would give it to corpses just because it's felt like it has impacted the game in such a way that made Death Knight what it is. I don't know, man. It's tough to pass up free mana or free minions from your deck without spending anything. It's
cheating's good.
So tough. Okay, you're going on to the big three.
We're on the Mount Rushmore already, as we would say here in the USA. Combo. Oh, Edwin. In +2/+2 for each other card you've played this turn. Oh, Edwin. Double spelling, getting multiple effects, is usually already better than single spelling, because in a lot of ways, you're already doing something you want to do. In Magic, there's kind of this thing that you build up to where it's the first person to double spell is way ahead, because you can usually either deal with 2 threats or deal with a threat and play a threat. And now you're in the driver's seat, right? Because you're the first person to be able to take multiple unique game actions to further your plan. So combo is bonus on top of doing something that already puts you ahead.
Yes.
That is stupid. That's stone rogue. Cold stupid. Oh, man.
But is it better than cheating minions?
It can be. Like, especially when you look at, when I think about like what they put recruit on, this 8 mana card versus this 3 mana card, and you're probably playing the 0 mana cards and the 1 mana cards to make sure that you're proccing like crazy. I am playing something that's like in Magic, the equivalent of a Domain Overlords versus an Izzet Prowess. Izzet Prowess is going to try to cast like, they start double spelling on turn 3 and casting cards that take advantage of it, and it just becomes this so much power out of such cheap cards. The efficiency is insane. Whereas Overlords is you let them breathe, and then they do this 1-2 punch and you die because you gave them too much time. And those are two very distinct styles of play that some people like more than others. So if I'm picking one that I have to do, it's really hard. I think when I describe recruit, it's limited to the deck building. It's limited to what's available. Like, there are guardrails, although it is, as a mechanic, stupidly broken. Get exactly what you want without paying for it. Dumb. But at least, like, there's this high cost. There's a bar to get there. And they can also try to control it with what minions are available in the format and how they get nerfed. Combo, I think, as a concept, is broken. You are already advantaged by having the versatility of playing multiple spells on your turn, as opposed to I tap out for this one thing, hope it's good enough. You're already a more versatile, more able deck. And now you're getting paid. Now you're getting extra. Now you're doing even better. I'm going with combo. I think as a mechanic, it's broken.
Interesting. Okay, no, that's fair. Combo has been, like, as long as it's printed on like moderately good card, it's felt fantastic. And the fact that they only give it to Rogue is obviously kind of sad, because you kind of want it for other classes. Like you said, it's just such a good keyword, and the cards that really benefit from combo really showcase it. Like, I picked Edwin here, but there are so many countless examples you can think of for combo. As Hearthstone has gotten older, combo has still remained one of the best things you could be doing for Rogue because of just how they utilize the effects. And this one, honestly, like, I would probably give it a combo too. Like, I think it's probably too good of a keyword for a lot of cases, especially when you think of preparation and Shadow Step. So in that context of what Rogue is able to do, combo is very, very good, which I think I agree. All right, 2 more. Charge.
Oh, no.
Recruit, you could probably guess what the last one is. So just so you know.
I sure can. I think I know where we're at. Okay. So would I rather be just casting a bunch of spells and getting paid for doing so? Am I like a Storm player in Magic? Or are we a Face is the Place gamer? There's Leroy Jenkins. Revolutionary. Got people even outside of the gamer world screaming it for whatever reason. I think I was watching a sports ball game the other day and somebody was yelling Leroy Jenkins.
That's so just to clarify, if you did not, that's actually a WoW thing. I don't know if you've seen that clip. There's a clip where they're doing a raid and this guy's preparing for like his entire life here, it sounds like. And before he can finish his thoughts, the guy just screams Leroy Jenkins and ruins the entire raid. That's what the clip comes from.
I don't even know that. Okay. Yeah, I guess I never understood the meme. I just thought you guys were so hyped in Hearthstone to punch people for 6.
No, it's the flavor of the card is very spot on because it's for Anixia's Lair, which is like one of the raids for Classic, and she summons whelps, so it makes sense that they would summon whelps because they all aggro on your team. Yeah, just funny.
Yep,
it's funny.
And charge is also fundamentally broken, specifically in Hearthstone. In Magic, this is just haste. Lots of things have haste. And, you know, since the blocker has agency over how to block, like any minion that you want to have taunt in Magic can have it, it's not broken. In Hearthstone, going face can be game ending, and getting the right things together with the right buffs so that the game and the right keyword like Windfury, and the game's just over with a charge minion. So, like, just right there, you have something that in Hearthstone specifically is insane. How could you not take charge? What would stop you from taking charge? If your deck was all charge minions at reasonable stats and you go first, you're gonna win, right?
Probably.
How do you lose? How do you lose?
Taunt.
Taunt? Oh, wow.
Taunt cheating.
Sure. Play your next charge minion that's bigger than your last if you're on curve, or play multiples of them. One hits the taunt thing, the other ones go face. Wow. Did it.
You're describing Face Hunter. Like, that's what the deck was.
Yes, I bet it was good.
It was good.
I bet it was good. Yeah, I mean, if I could have one keyword and it could be combo or charge in a deck that I'm playing for my life, I want the one that just bypasses whatever my opponent's gonna do aside from keep something on board and win the game. And I can build my deck in a way to support that. I can make sure I have owls to take taunt away or whatever, but then I'm gonna hit you with charge until you're dead. And you can't stop me because you can't play on my turn. I'm picking charge. I think you just win. Yeah, I think you just win.
So I think for everyone involved here, like watching this video, they would agree with you. Charge has been fundamentally like one of the best mechanics in the game. The fact is like you said, just go face. Who cares? Most of the time, that's how it's played. There has been countless decks where charge is the fundamental strategy for it. And even though I would say combo is very good in general and probably throughout Hearthstone's history, charge minions have caused way more issues than combo has. And that's probably why I would be leaning towards charge as well. Charge is a very good keyword, but you have one more tyrant to go through and you could probably guess what it is. Battlecry.
Battlecry. All right up here, the end boss. How can somebody possibly say that they would just play a deck with no battle cries? How could somebody even envision that? So many of the cards you've shown me to show me other keywords have had battle cry on them. Why? Because with those keywords alone, they'd suck.
Yep. Actually true. Actually true. I guarantee by this point in the video too, there's going to be people like, well, this keyword would suck if it didn't have battle cry, which they're right.
They're right.
Battle cry is so good.
That's why the end boss has been lurking in this video the whole time. The whole time. It's been just staring at us being like, I dare you. I dare you to come at me. What am I supposed to say about Battlecry?
It speaks for itself. You don't need to. Everyone knows.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Believe it or not, I come from a time in Magic history, you know, that really old person TCG, and none of you Hearthstone Zoomers like had to worry about for a while. I come from a time where enters the battlefield wasn't a thing they put on most creatures. Most creatures just had a keyword or didn't even have that. Or if something was printed on them, it was a downside. It sucked. It was horrible compared to what it is now. The creatures just didn't matter. We've done some of those old Magic videos. I didn't even show you creatures from the old sets because not a single thing back then was relevant as a creature because all they were stats and downsides. That was it. That was how the game was played. And then in the set Visions, they printed an old card called Necrotal. And Necrotal was 4 mana for a 2/1. Wow. But when it entered the battlefield, destroy target non-black, non-artifact creature. And they were called 187s for a police code that when they came in, they killed something. We didn't know what to call them back then, but
That's
it changed.
crazy.
It changed everything. Suddenly this 4-mana 2/1 was the most popular creature in these formats and everybody was playing it. Suddenly all those expensive creatures that were just balls of stats meant nothing. Everything changed. Necrotal changed Magic the Gathering, and I would say goes on to change every card game because you guys had Battlecry right away because it makes creatures relevant. In a lot of ways, they're both a nightmare to play with and just irrelevant in a world without Battlecry. That's the truth. So can I possibly take charge over Battlecry? Like, can I do it? In a 1v1, does charge win? If you're just going face and they're playing things with battle cries, think about the great battle cries that have existed. You can flood your board with taunt minions.
True. True, actually.
Dude, charge might literally be the better keyword. That is true. Like, it might have ended the most games. More games than any other unique keyword is possible. But is battle cry on Yogg? It is.
It is. So
frankly,
true.
I think the game sucks without Battlecry. You are a minion-based game. I can't take charge. I can't do it. I think your game is unplayable without Battlecry. That's what I'll die on. I'll die on that hill.
You're right. No, you're right. But the game is designed around this keyword. This keyword is everything to this game. Even every like I think that you said it really well. Like every other keyword is based around this one. Like you Battlecry discover a card, for instance, right? Battlecry gain charge is another really good example. So it would be so weird to play this game without Battlecry, considering how important it is to the overall game itself. And yeah, that's why I put it last, because I feel like if I put Battlecry at the start, it would never lose. So then I wouldn't have like anything to show. So yeah, I would agree with you. Battlecry is the best mechanic in the game. I hope this was fun. Thanks for yapping for 2 hours. My God.
Oh my God. I love card games. What can I say?